Greetings, everybody. This is Brother Ravana Noon, also known as Dark Occultist 99, back once again. Today, I don't have a particular topic to discuss, so we will just basically freestyle it. I've had various communications with individuals, and one of the things that always comes up is the left-hand path, the occult, and your race or nationality. It is true that the occult, that the left-hand path tends to be dominated by Caucasians, and it seems to be a small amount of melanated people, whether that's African American, African Caribbean, Latinos, African Latinos, indigenous people, whatever the case may be. For the most part, there isn't a lot of us, from my experience, but there is quite a few of us. That tends to be because much of the information disseminated that in regards to the occult or the left-hand path is, of course, disseminated by Caucasians, because not enough of us, whether we're black or Latino, write books about our experiences in the occult, share information about our experiences in the occult, and what we've learned in the occult. There's not a lot of us that make videos dealing with the occult. Most of the time when we deal with magic or things of that nature, tends to be more African traditional forms of magical religio, or magic and religious aspects. So, unfortunately, yes, you don't find a lot of us, but there is quite a few of us. To me, race is irrelevant. Knowledge is knowledge, and you should be able to learn from anybody and everybody. I do not agree with everybody that I study information from. I do not agree with their personal views all the time. I do not agree with their personal opinions. I definitely do not agree with their racism and bullshit. So I have to make that clear right now. But as a left-hand path practitioner and occultist, I am not afraid to go into places that most of us have been afraid to go to get or gather information. And I will gather that information, gain the experience so I can share it with others so that they can utilize some of that information that is readily not available all the time and apply it to their life and see if it benefits them. So, for example, Rosicrucian, something I belong with. I don't speak about it readily because my journeys and travels I keep personal and private a lot of times, but I'm a part of the ancient mystic order of Rosicrucian, and that mystic order has some valuable information for your growth. They have a lot of information that is beneficial for you. But a lot of people of color do not tend to join that organization because of the rhetoric within the black conscious community. Oh, that's white people stuff, that's this, don't do that. Yet the people telling you this, a lot of times, either belong to that organization or have used a lot of information in their books from those organizations. I'll give you a classic point. You go to the Metanetta by Ra'u Nefer Amen. Large portions of that book come directly from temple degrees within the Rosicrucian order and different monographs within the Rosicrucian order, where he verbatim, it's not like he borrowed just a little portion, he verbatim used word for word in many of these degrees and monographs. But yet he'll tell you that it's white people's stuff and they stole stuff from us. But yet he goes back in there and steals the very thing that they have. Contradiction, hypocrisy, stupidity. If you're going to use some shit, you're going to use it from other people, quote it, give them respect where respect is due. But you can't let your complex get you to the point where you're afraid to venture into different avenues just because it's strictly Caucasian. Listen, I have no problem with any race, creed, nationality as long as you respect me. You cross the boundaries, I'm taking you out. There's no questions asked. I do not talk. I do not jibber jab and all this extra heated discussion. I'm just going right at you. Period. So you respect me, I respect you. The minute that boundary is crossed, there's no respect, no love lost. You come at me, I'm taking you out. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I have no problem with Caucasians. I have no problem with Asians. I have no problem with anything. I grew up mostly around Black and Latinos, so this is why sometimes the focus of these videos tends to be towards Black and Latinos, because that's my culture, that's my upbringing, that's my passion and my love. But I have interacted with the Caucasian community since I was a young person too. Okay? You can't help it. This is what you grow up in. Some of them were straight racist dickheads, and other ones were more polite, caring, and open-minded. So I judge people on a one-on-one basis, not a group basis. Okay? And I do that purposely. Because if we group people into these stereotypes, we group people into these things, you personally don't like when they stereotype you, but then you do it to them. Contradiction. So I judge people one-on-one basis, and I govern myself accordingly on how to interact with them based upon the level of respect I receive for them or not. It's important when you're traveling the left-hand path that you open your eyes past the racism, the discrimination, the limited mindset that we come into these paths with preconceived notions. Because some of the most important information I learned was from people that were not our own. Speaking Black and Latino, I should say. They were from Caucasians. And they didn't look at me as, oh, look at this Puerto Rican boy, this Puerto Rican kid, this Puerto Rican man, you know what I'm saying, coming into this. And I didn't go into it by myself. I went into it with some of my African American brothers. I went into it with some of my Latino brothers. They didn't look at us like that. You have some that will, but then there's some that don't. In the Freemasonic Lodge, you encounter some who are straight stupid and racist, and then you'll encounter some who are straight open-minded and respect you as a human being. That's with anything. You have to understand that's with anything. But you should not let that limit you in your growth. And you should be able to dig into any avenue you want to get the information necessary. The bull crap, leave it alone. If it's racist and it has racist overtones and undertones to what they're teaching, you don't have to accept that. But there's certain universal truths within certain information that can be across the board, regardless of personal opinions, discriminations, and racism. Learn to dig and find that information for your growth. And the occult, which comes from the Latin word occultare, which is basically hidden, it's hidden knowledge and information. You find this hidden sciences that can benefit your growth. And the left-hand path, what we tend to do is to go into the paths that are most forbidden or taboo by society, by your culture, your tradition, your nationality, your race, your creed, whatever. We go into those because we've learned from experience that many of the things that people tell you to stay away from actually sometimes has some of the most beneficial information that you need for your growth. So myself, I took it upon myself years ago on my journey over 25 years now that I was going to investigate anything and everything I could, from Freemasonry to Rosicrucian to Santeria to Palo to Voodoo or Voodoo to Black Magic to comedic magic, you name it. Ordo Templar Orientis, or OTO, or Thelema. I was going to investigate anything and everything that I could for my benefit and my growth. Not for bragging purposes and, oh, I'm such a master. I don't care to ever be called the master. The only thing I care about is mastering my personal life, overcoming my personal bullcrap, and being a master to control my own destiny. That's all I care about. I do not care about all this other crap. So with that, I went into vampiric magic, which is what we'll be discussing tonight on our Awakening Universal Mind show on TalkShoe.com at 9 p.m. I went into vampiric magic, which is something that a lot of black people, Latino people would never do because they think it's crazy or grotesque. Because that's the influence Hollywood has given you and you've accepted. Vampiric magic in its roots comes from Kemet. Some may differ. I really could care because when you really research it, you'll find that a lot of its roots come from Kemet. The Per-Ah or Pharaoh Unas from the pyramid text absorbed the energy of the gods, absorbed the powers of the gods. That's vampiric. Sekhmet absorbed the blood of the humans, which is a metaphor for absorbing what's inside the blood, which is the life force, whether you call it prana, chi, some will call it sechem, which is the power, life force within. She absorbed it. Satuh or Set absorbed all the power of the gods to become known as the greatest of the gods. Vampiric. Then you also will find vampiric elements and teachings within the Dravidian or the Hindu culture and the archetype known as Kali, the divine feminine female warrior vampiric energy, where she had a thirst for blood, again symbolic of the life force, and decimated and destroyed human beings and others who were standing in the way of progression and growth. So you have to understand this vampiric element is very strong. And if I was afraid, if I allowed my preconceived notions to continue to affect me, I never would have journeyed into vampiric teachings. The vampiric element is found in many different facets. A vampire practices necromancy because a vampire is called the living dead. And a vampire is connected to the current of death. And they learn from their spirits that they communicate with much knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which leads to power. And the aspect of necromancy that the vampiric element is very connected and tied with is the ancestral element of it. And then within voodoo or voodoo, there's vampiric strains or elements. Through the Gay Day, the Lord's Masters of Death is very strong, and the absorption of energy is very strong within that current. Then it's also within Voodoo and Santeria and Palo ancestral connection to a vampire. Is a strong part of the vampiric element is ancestral connection. And last but not least, sex magic. Sex magic in its root formation and root elements is very vampiric in nature. It's how to absorb energy, how to utilize energy, how to channel energy for your growth. If I was afraid or a wuss, I would have never traveled into vampiric energy. I would have never even delved into that because vampires or vampires are always associated with certain elements in society, and they always depict them mostly as Caucasians, which is bullcrap too. Because if you go into a lot of African traditional mythologies, there's vampiric element all around there. So you have to understand, you come into these paths with that crap, you might as well stay away, because your own personal stereotypes, your own personal notions and ideas is going to stop you from even getting the wisdom that you need. The vampiric strain is super strong with me because ever since I was a young child, I would cultivate energy, not just for myself, but everything around me. Whether it was the elements around me, the natural elements around me, whether it was the exchange of energy with people. I just seemed to attract energy into my life, and I seem to get a high off of absorbing that energy. Okay, now you may say, well, that's crazy. You're stealing energy from people. No, I don't. Never have, never will. I took energy from people who freely gave it to me. So, sex magic, part of vampiric element, is very seductive in nature. This is why they always depict vampires or vampires as very seductive. They seduce you. And through that seduction, they help raise your sexual energy. And you already seduced and desiring that person, you freely are sharing your sexual energy with them without intercourse. You don't always have to get busy. So this aspect is very important to understand when you work in vampiric magic, is the sexual element of it. Is overtones everywhere in vampiric magic about sexuality. It's very seductive, very sensual, the way you touch, the way you move. All that is important. I found myself naturally being able to do a lot of these things, and unconsciously doing a lot of these things, where I would attract people to me who desired to be around me, who desired my energy, but in return, I also wanted their energy. I may seem crazy to some of y'all because some of y'all are very religious, some of y'all are very moralist. Usually your moralities are programmed through religion, society, culture, and family anyways. You could hold your judgments to yourself. I don't live for you. I live for me. And I care less what your opinion of me is. But I'm dealing with reality. Everything has a vampiric element to it. The trees are absorbing your carbon dioxide to produce oxygen, which you then in turn absorb from the trees. That's vampiric. You may not look at it like that because you're so spooky and so natural and everything's so loving and caring bullcrap. Society, the world, nature, it's all about the predator or the prey. Predator is a master over themselves, and they will utilize any and every avenue to maintain their power and increase their power. A prey is the docile, the weak, and they get run over. This is what's happening in the world over, has been happening, will continue to happen. I refuse to be a slave or a servant to anybody. I am a master over myself and only myself. Okay? I always have shared with individuals, my friends, people like that, my philosophy. My number one philosophy is either you are a predator or prey, or you are a master or a slave. Slavery is a long time ago. And my ancestors shared with me through much necromantic rituals and ancestral rituals. No more time to be docile and weak and a servant and a slave. Time for you to be a master and be in control. No more taking bullcrap from people. And that's where I'm at. I don't play that game of worshiping nothing or no one. I worship myself, and I give respect to my ancestors, who've also shared with me how to worship myself and make myself stronger. And in return, I'm making my ancestral lineage stronger. So to be a vampire is not to be weak in any stretch of your imagination or any ideas. It's to be strong, to be in control, to be a master over self, to seek the knowledge, wisdom, understanding that leads to the power, and continue empowering yourself. But, again, if I had come in here with preconceived notions, ideas, I would have never got to this level. See, the vampiric element, like I said earlier, it has so many different channels and paths that are within it, which is why I consider myself a necromancer, which is why I utilize elements of voodoo, which is why I utilize sex magic, which is why I can utilize Luciferianism and left-hand path philosophies. They all fit under that. And it's not the Hollywood depiction of sucking blood off of people. That's fantasized and done for a purpose. It is the absorption of energy, and it's not just absorbing from people, it's absorbing from anything around you. Anything and everything around you. And increases your own power. Increases your own energy and keeps you charged up and high. So, I don't want to ruin too much because tonight's class we're going to go deeper into this. But next week, I'm going to go more into vampirism and necromancy and how they're associated, connected, and how to work with it. So I'll leave it like that. But I just wanted to share that we can't bring in our different ideas, stereotypes, discriminations, racism, and things into your journey on the left-hand path or in the occult in general. You're gonna have to be a bigger person and look past some of the stupidity of the past of all these people and find the information that you need for your growth. Find what is beneficial for your growth. The stuff that you don't need is not going to help you, discard it. People's personal opinions, discard it. Find the information, the systems, the methods, the techniques that help you grow. Do not allow yourself to not journey into certain paths because you were taught by somebody, oh, that's white people's stuff. Or that's black people's stuff. Bullcrap. Find what is necessary, what works for you, and work it from that angle of getting what is most important for you, which is gaining that power, that knowledge, that wisdom and understanding. Bypass the crap. Because as a vampire sitting here sharing with you, there's so much more I can share with you about vampirism that is not in books. So much things that many of y'all probably have done naturally. The seduction, the way you look at people, the way you smile, the way you talk, the way people just seem to come up to you out the blue. Some of y'all just have been attracting crazy stuff into your life. Sexual crazy stuff. Weird people coming up to you that just seem to want to be around you, just have to be around you. You have that vampiric energy. Never probably realized it, but you do. So, I'll leave y'all with that. Once again, I'll see y'all tonight on the Awakening Universal Mind Show on talkshoe.com at 9 p.m. Peace.